As an educator, copyright and fair use are topics that often come up in conversation. Teachers are frequently questioning the rules and find it hard to find someone with a confident answer. In my experience at the elementary level, most teachers have not hesitated to use any materials because of copyright issues. I've seen two extremes with the topic of copyright. Either educators steer completely clear of using outside materials, or they are comfortable using any resources they see fit for the lesson. I have always believed that rather than avoiding enhancements to instruction, teachers should use the resources available. After reading Copyright Clarity by Renee Hobbs, it is clear that educators need to take a minute to question what copyrighted materials we are using, and more importantly, how we're using them. This is becoming more important as we begin to make a complete switch to media literacy and using the various tools that technology provides for us. This is where the importance of fair use comes in. I know that educators are aware of this term, but do we all know exactly what it means? Copyright Clarity revealed that fair use is meant to be an ally for educators, not something holding us back from supplementing lessons with outside sources. Copyright and fair use play such an important role in the development of students' literacy and learning. Teachers must use all materials available to enhance lessons as well as keep up with the changing methods to do this. The bottom line is that teachers must understand their responsibilities and take advantage of their rights under the copyright law. So how do we know when fair use applies? It depends on the nature of the copyrighted work, the purpose of the use, the amount of the use, the effect of potential markets, and the most important factor is transformativeness, which is simply adding value or repurposing the material. The nature of the copyrighted work is important because when it comes to unpublished materials, the courts feel that copyright owners have a right to determine the first publication of their work. Courts are more protective of music, art, films, poetry, and other creative works than they are of nonfiction. We also need to consider the purpose of the use. Some purposes of fair use include criticism, teaching, comment, news reporting, or research. If you limit your purpose to these activities, it will help you in claiming fair use. But be careful, not all nonprofit educational uses are considered fair. The law does not set exact quantity limits. For the most part, the more you use, the less likely you are within fair use. The amount of work is also measured in qualitative terms. A short clip from a movie may usually be acceptable, but not if it fully displays the most creative elements of the work. Effect on the market means that if you could have purchased the copyrighted work, it probably isn't covered under fair use. You should make a simple investigation of the market to see if the work is available to the public. A work may be available if you are using a large part of a book that is for sale at a reasonable price. Courts favor uses that are transformative. This means that they are not just reproductions. Fair use is more likely to be found when the copyrighted work is transformed or remixed into something new. For example, using quotations in a paper or images mixed into a multimedia product for a lesson. There are many misconceptions about copyright and fair use. The most common being that an academic purpose, no matter what it is or how it is used, is considered fair use. This is not true. No use of copyrighted work is automatically fair, and the academic use is not an exception. Another common misconception is that if there's no symbol, it's okay to use it. This is also not true. The copyright symbol has not been required since 1989. If there is no symbol, it is not a good indicator of following fair use. If it is an original, that means that someone owns it, whether or not the symbol is present. A final misconception is that if the work is already on the web, it's public domain. Public domain basically means that a song, literary work, or motion picture has had its copyright expire and was either not renewed or abandoned. Just because a song or excerpt from a book is found on the internet does not mean that it was done legally. As educators, we find ourselves faced with copyright issues daily. If a teacher wants to add music to her back-to-school night slideshow, is she protected by fair use? As long as the teacher cites the source of the music in the slideshow, this would be considered fair use. The music is enhancing the presentation and being viewed only by a private audience. Have you ever worried about showing a Disney film to your class? This comes down to the purpose of the viewing. If a teacher chooses to show the film to quiet down the students on a Friday afternoon, this is not fair use. But if a teacher shows clips of a movie to enhance a study of character traits, it's an acceptable use of the film. Is it acceptable to use YouTube videos in the classroom? If you are going to do this, it is safer to pull resources from the designated teaching channels. These videos were created for educational purposes. Also, choose short clips and discuss the significance with the students afterwards. Teachers may create activities such as this comic strip and ask the students to fill in the bubbles using picture clues, dialogue, or even character development. The comic strip was originally for creative purposes, not factual. This makes it difficult to find fair use. A better option would be to create your own fill-in-the-blank comic through various websites available. The bottom line is that teachers must understand their responsibilities and take advantage of their rights under the copyright law. Fair use is flexible and depends on the content and situation. We are beginning to put the pieces together as we educate ourselves on copyright and fair use. The more we share with our colleagues, the more we can enhance our lessons with appropriate resources, meeting the ever-changing needs of our students. All photos in this slideshow were taken from various photographers on Flickr. The content was gathered from Renee Hobbs' Copyright Clarity and the Media Education Lab videos on YouTube.